Let's start out by defining white privilege and what it is and what it is not.
I apologize, but I could not resist starting my video on that note. But yeah, as you can guess, the topic of today's video will be Dr. Phil himself and the phenomenon that he represents. And perhaps it is necessary to state that Dr. Phil is no doctor at all, as he lost his practicing license in 2006 when he was trying to force one of his patients into having a financial relationship with him. But that is just one among many other shady stories of him doing weird shit he isn't supposed to do that I found while doing some research on him. And before I proceed to explore the phenomenon that Dr. Phil did not create but had greatly exploited, it is crucial for one to know the critiques of Dr. Phil that have been made before me. And most of what I've seen revolve around him doing it for the show, with people often accusing him of faking it and not actually caring about helping the patients he supposedly treats, including instances where he is being an asshole to his patients, causing them emotional trauma. And a very good blog post on that was made by Anti-Everything that you can also watch on her YouTube channel in a video format. And besides, it is not just certain bloggers and random people are calling him out, but the entire news outlets, and they have done it for years. But I guess the show must go on since it is profitable. Now, I won't be naming the series of instances where he is being rude and abusive to other people, nor I will be dissecting one or a couple of instances of that abusive behavior. I feel like it's been done by multiple people before me. Instead, I'd like to explore the very particular relations of him, people on his show, and his audience, which I found to be very thrilling, as it reminds me of a certain unfortunate behavior that I will elaborate upon in this video. But let's establish some context. First, I got introduced into Dr. Phil by watching a video on him made by Paul Joseph Watson, in which he had covered a black woman who was faking being a white woman for the views.
What's with all these judgmental white people condemning a black person's right to choose their race? Bigots, stand up if you support the ethno-state. Jesus wept.
They're just quiet about it, that's it. White power.
Unfortunately for his audience, the story of course turned out to be faked, as it was exposed as a fraud by her sister, while Dr. Phil went over black radio shows talking about this phenomenon, knowing himself all along that he was a liar, yet it didn't stop him spreading this narrative that blacks want to become whites due to whiteness being perceived as a luxury or white privilege, when in fact that's the exact opposite. I guess that got me interested at first, and I have decided to watch even more of his video clips on YouTube in order to understand what makes so many people into this whole stuff. And I had immediately stumbled upon hundreds of videos with millions of views of Dr. Phil putting a brat in her place, narrated by some edgy YouTube commentator.
$24,979.22, your total indebtedness.
Phil, mate, I am not liking where this is going. Please don't say you're going to pay for this woman to get out of debt.
If I give you this check to hit the reset button and start over.
Why is she starting to shed a tear? Why is she making it look like she's actually going to change?
I would go to school.
What? No, you fucking wouldn't. I'm surprised you even know what a school is.
Because that would get you out of debt.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Woo, go on, Phil. Come on, Phil, yes, lad.
Yeah, you go, man. Put this brat in her place. What a hero. I wish I was in his place, am I right, guys? And the audience cheers as always. And it is that sort of phenomenon that I wanted to explore here. If you don't protest, of course. A phenomenon that embodies social control, a lust for public shaming, and virtue signaling all at the same time. And this phenomenon is not only can be observed on Dr. Phil, but on other fake shows, with Judge Judy coming up to my mind. But even if we go back in time far enough, The same phenomenon, although to a very accelerated degree, would have moved the whole town to witness a scene of a public hanging or other form of public execution or shaming, and that would precisely be done for a reason: to satisfy a desire of a rightful condemnation that we carry on to the 21st century, where people punch Nazis and do other sorts of heroic things, except they don't require any heroism at all other than just agreeing with the crowd. And it seems like that we are ourselves literally are turning into a reality show where everyone is constantly trying to monitor and control the behaviors of others and tries to be cool and at the same time overly sarcastic, as those qualities people perceive to be predicting social success and as a consequence are in demand. Dr. Phil's show is just a continuation of this phenomenon, as he brings and talks on his show about stuff related to increased parenting functions, rightful moral condemnations, not to mention him jumping on the bandwagon of every new social justice cause in which he will always be on the right side of history, exposing transphobic bigots, talking about white privilege among other things that would bring one a sense of moral righteousness, accompanied by shaming of others who do not feel that sense of moral righteousness. And Dr. Phil is just making his cash off of this ever-increasing demand for drama and feeling of moral superiority as well as social shaming. And by the way, I'm not arguing that social shaming is bad per se, or that one should not feel a sense of moral righteousness. There are certainly moments for that, but those moments would certainly not be resolved to shows like this. And if you think more about this show, you will come to the conclusion that every party's interests are being satisfied. The advertisers are making shit ton of money off of his show. Dr. Phil's desire of playing a good doctor while dominating his guests and acting as a big boss man role model while making millions of dollars is satisfied too. The viewer's wishes for being seen as a moral and a much better person in comparison to whatever is portrayed on the stage is satisfied, and quite often Dr. Phil's victims patients manage to get their few minutes of fame that in the case of some even manage to turn this into their professional career, as this brat right here had started her own reality show basically acting as a brat because apparently Dr. Phil's audience did not enjoy enough of her being a brat on his show, so they had to watch more of it on her YouTube channel. Yes, she made a YouTube channel with about 1.5 million subs, and boy oh boy, judging by the dislike ratio, people seem to strangely love it. And I guess I never understood people who seem to buy and consume something that is obviously fake, such as reality show, and consume something so pathetic as a young brat buying clothes that are not accessible to one outside of the top 1%, but I guess people, and especially women, like it, and like it for the drama that it brings with itself, as it is not just entertaining for them to watch, as those sort of people seek drama themselves, as they have very little of it apparently in their private lives, among other reasons. And unfortunately people are hardwired that way, so my bitching would probably not impact most of the people who are already into those types of shows, but hopefully I can convey a message to some of his toxic fanbase that the reason they like to watch Dr. Phil is that of the reasons I had specified, and if some people do watch him out of compassion and empathy, know that most of those stories are probably faked and blurred out of proportion, not to mention that at least 90% of them are exploiting those victims. And ask yourself this: would a real-life family bring themselves to act this sort of way on camera, publicly humiliating themselves in an archetypical fashion? Do you think they would like the whole world to know how exaggeratedly pathetic they are? I personally think not. I'd like to finish this video by reading a conclusion of a blog post made by Anti-Everything, in which he wrote that, and I quote, "These allegations, and many others I didn't include, span back years, and I've noticed a pattern, McGraw, Dr. Phil, seems to feel no empathy for his patient's quote-unquote plight and uses serious mental illness as a way to draw traffic to his show, making himself look like a hero in the process. He is constantly name-dropping celebrities, which make him seem vapid and insecure. Anytime a guest attempts to stand up for themselves, he dismisses them completely and turns the audience against them, which I would argue represents the behavior that I was just talking about in this video, but did not name it directly. And on that note, I have to finish this video with a hope that some of his fans would analyze the true basic reasons, or should I say primitive desires, behind their consumption of Dr. Phil's content, and as a consequence rethink their behavior and redirect those primitive desires into actually something productive, such as helping themselves and other people around them in a process of building communities of strength, rather than morally condemning the faults of people who you have nothing to do with on TV and feel good about it.